So are the dolls in your dollhouse getting ready to do some home improvement projects before the holidays come up? How about a nice paint roller so they can paint some of those rooms? Stay tuned and see how simple, easy, and inexpensive this project is. Alright, so our first step is we are going to make the base for our roller and for the roller portion of our paint roller. And this is just a strip of white cardstock, and it's 3/4 of an inch by 4.5 inches long. And the first thing I'm going to do, take a pair of scissors, and just like if I was going to make a ribbon bow or something, running my scissors along, I'm getting it to start wanting to curve. Now, I am going to roll it up in my fingers. We're going to roll this a couple of times before we actually put the glue on it, because I want to verify that this is the right size. And I've got my 1/4 inch hole punch here. Let's see. Yep, that's about the right size. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a wet wipe out, because this is going to get really messy really fast. I have my block of wood that I've shown you how to make this before, and I have a toothpick. And we're going to use this to dry this. And I've got some Mod Podge. I'm going to dip my finger in the Mod Podge. I'm not going to put the glue on the very beginning. I'm going to start on the outside of my curve. I'm actually going to do both sides. About halfway down, I'm going to start doing the inside too. I don't want glue on this portion here because I don't want it to stick to my toothpick. We're simply using the toothpick, and I'm going to use this knitting needle to help me hold it, but you could probably do this in your fingers too. I just usually roll these over one of these needles when I do this. Get it started. The beginning is always the hardest because paper doesn't want to bend this sharply. Get a nice beginning. Keep it nice and even. Now it can come off. And the Mod Podge soaked on both sides of the paper makes it really tacky and really want to stick. Try to keep your coil nice and even. You want this paper bead. Basically what we're making is we're making a paper bead. I'll dip my finger in it and just go over that seam again. Rub the outside with this. Then I'm going to balance it on my toothpick. Okay. There. And I'm just going to let it sit there until the glue is dry. So once the glue is dry, I'll be back and we'll move on to the next step. Alright, our Mod Podge is pretty much set up, but we've got this seam here where the pieces come together. So I have an emery board. Not going to get rid of it all together, but I want to minimize it a little bit. It will probably still show, but not as much. Now, we're going to need our Mod Podge again, and we are going to need some flocking. This one is called Fun Flock, and it's cotton ball white, and off-white would actually be better, but this is what I have. Got my wet wipe handy because this is going to get messy. And I'm looking around my table trying to find a piece of paper I can use, because because excuse me, I want to dump out just a little bit of this, put this back on the toothpick, put the lid on my fun flock before disaster strikes. We'll be able to pour what's left of this back in the container when we're all done. Take a finger. You could use a paintbrush for this, but if I use my finger, I don't have to go find a paintbrush. And we want to get this pretty well coated because, and it can set for a second because it will get more tacky as it sits. And when you're convinced that you've got this pretty even, you are going to roll this through the fun flock. Try and make sure you don't have any other hairs. I made one of these yesterday. When I came back and looked at it, it had cat hair all over it. I'm hoping this one doesn't end up with cat hair. Now, this Mod Podge needs to dry and kind of tap it off. Set this aside to dry for a little bit. I let this fun flock, by the way, dry for an hour or so before I put it back in here, just in case it's damp from the Mod Podge. I don't want to ruin the fun flock that's in this container. And this stuff, by the way, you usually can get it near the scrapbook section or the card making or rubber stamping, but I've noticed I can inconsistently get it at my local craft stores. Some days I go in and they've got a ton of it. A few months later, it's nowhere to be seen, and then it will come back again. So just keep your eyes open and ask for it if you don't see it. So when this is all dry, I will be back and we'll do the next step. All right, everything's had a chance to dry, so the first thing I'm going to do is get this out of my way. And put it in there. Now, we're going to put some ends on our rollers, on our roller. To do that, I need a scrap of cardstock. Now you can make these ends white or black or whatever color you want. I'm using a 1/4 inch hole punch. I just got this one at Dollar Tree. 1/4 inch is pretty much the standard size. It's like what you use to put holes in paper to go in your notebook or something. And once again, using my finger. Dip my finger in there. Now I'm going to attempt to not get any wet Mod Podge on the fuzzy part. Get that wet. Since my fingers are pretty messy, there we go. Do the other end. Now we're putting this on for a couple of different reasons. Number one, it will look better. But number two, we can put a really small hole in here, so on our next step we won't have a problem with this coming apart when we finish it. So now this Mod Podge needs to dry, and then once again I'll be back. Alright, I'm really hoping this is dry enough to continue because I want to get the video done. So I'm going to take a sewing pin and I'm going to poke a hole in the middle. I'm going to turn it over and poke another hole. Now the reason we put that on there is we're going to use a head pin to be the mechanism, the handle of our paint roller. And the head pin would slide inside our paper bead if we didn't. So we're going to do that. Now we're going to bend this right next to there. Then that. And I wish I had I wish I could find my needle nose jewelry pliers, but I couldn't find those this weekend. We're going to make that kind of shape. Now I have a strip that's not the right strip. Hold on, I got to cut my strip. Alright, so I've cut another piece of cardstock. I used blue this time. You could use any color you want for your handle. This is a 1/2 inch by 1 1/4 inches. And again, I've just been kind of rolling. I wanted to pre-roll it so it wouldn't take quite so long. On this smaller piece of paper, I find I need to start rolling it like on a pencil and then start rolling it. Because if I try to use the scissors, it tends to break this narrow piece apart. So now we've got something that wants to bend. Again, wet wipe and Mod Podge. And trying to keep Mod Podge off of that. And this time we do want the whole strip coated. And you'll see why in a second. I'm going to get the Mod Podge off my fingers. Because this time we don't want this to bend or to roll off. Okay, and that's coming off, so I'm going to go ahead and roll it up off of there. Roll this as tightly as you can. And then we're going to coat this wire as well as we can. We want quite a bit of Mod Podge down there. And then feed the wire back into that hole. Hopefully, there we go. There. And now when this dries, we will have a paint roller. So I'm going to let this dry, and when I come back, I'll show you the completed paint roller. All right, and there's our finished little paint roller, and see, it even rolls. And while you can still see where the paper ended, where the seam was, it's minimized a lot. But that's our paint roller. You can put another coat of Mod Podge on the handle, or you could even coat this with clear nail polish down here. That would also make a good seal. It's not quite dry in the middle. Be really careful, and you might want to drop some glue down into the top if it tries to come off. But there is our paint roller. So now the dolls can go and do some home improvement. So I hope you enjoyed this project. Be sure and check the blog post for the measurements and any other information. And check us on Facebook. If you make one of my projects, be sure and share a photo with me. I want to see what you're working on. I'll talk to you later. Bye.